It is Saturday evening, and that means it's time for no messing around, no spruiking, no selling, no joking. Well, not too much of it anyway. No hidden agenda, no secret little plugs of a product, none of this slimy crap, just serious watch talk with myself, Oisin O'Malley, and of course, the man next to me, Mr. Alex Fody. How are you, Alex?
I'm good. How are you, Oisin? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, man.
Yeah,
Can you
perfect.
hear me?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, good. I'm just in my workshop, as you can see. Usually it's in my other room that I do the filming, the
Mm-hmm.
live stream. I've just been setting up my microscope. This one here, which will basically show a more high detailed repair on my live streams rather than the usual small camera, which I'm using right now to film this. So,
Yeah.
um,
That's some pretty scary looking equipment, man.
yeah, it's
Especially,
some
I
real
like
high.
the what looks like a bicycle seat there. Is that for leaning your elbow on all day? It's right there
I
in the center of
actually,
the image.
if you can look behind, if you look behind where the camera is, where you see
Yeah.
the monitor behind me, there's actually a dumbbell there. So I actually, when they're watching the cleaning machine, I do some
Oh,
weights.
yeah.
Yeah, so I can lift all the way back.
Is that your time grapher there on the right?
Time grapher, yeah,
Yeah.
time grapher, demagnetizer, auto oilers, baskets for the cleaning machine, and some watches that strip down in this blue compartment here.
Uh-huh.
So it's not the most tidiest. And actually, my WASTEP teacher, I believe he's watching now. He actually came to see me on Friday, who taught me everything. I have a lot of respect for Chris Simpson.
Uh-huh.
My bench was more tidy than now. So yeah.
It shows us how much you care about us and
Yeah.
our opinion, man.
Yeah.
What's on the wrist? Apart from the tag, it looks like you were at a rock concert or something last night. You left the tag on your right arm. You went
Oh,
into a nightclub or something.
no, I took my beautiful boy to Bouncy Castle. I take him to
Oh, nice.
sushi, and then we went to a bouncy castle. So I went on with him, and I've left this on. So as much as I was being excited that I went to see Led Zeppelin or something, I didn't. I went to a bouncy castle.
Bouncy castle. I used to leave those things on, for days, because ripping them off sometimes meant ripping off half my bloody arm at the same time. What are you wearing on the other wrist, though? That's what we all want to see.
I'll just use my subby.
Let's have another look at her. Why not?
Yeah,
Can never get too much of it.
yeah. No, I mean I wear it every day. Every day. I don't wear it in the gym, but I wear it showering. I just don't understand people that don't wear their watches in water, especially subs. I just don't get it. But each to their own, isn't it?
Sure. I mean, it's certainly built to withstand that. I'm wearing a watch that'll be slightly a topic of conversation this evening. I'm wearing the Seamaster 300M. This is the pre-ceramic one. This is the previous generation, one of the first. We'll get onto that in a minute. Guys, we don't have D with us this evening. He's one of our SWAT team. So it's just going to be myself and Alex, so a little bit more intense, but hopefully we'll be able to answer all the questions. As usual, guys, we're going to talk about a couple of subjects here. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do rapid fire questions. So get some questions ready that you want to hit Alex with to pick his brain about just real technical, nerdy stuff. If there's any little questions you have about your particular setting of watch or storing a watch or whatever comes to mind, hit us with it. If we can answer, we certainly will. So the first topic of the evening is ceramic or pre-ceramic. Now, I did a video, let me see if I can pull it up, way back when I started a channel, and I was just a wee lad, and it was about the Omega Seamasters new versus old, because I did have the current generation of Seamaster also, and this was my first, when everybody knows that and knows the channel well, this was my first luxury watch, actually. and I'm going to hang on to it no matter what happens in my life. And I did a comparison on them. Let me pull up the video here so we can take a look. I just want to talk about the general subject of ceramic versus pre-ceramic. Of course, Rolex went through this transition back. I think they started phasing them in 2007, 2008. Right there, you have the watch I'm wearing on the left, right there, and then that's the newer generation watch. In the end, I kind of come to the conclusion, even though these are both my watches, I have no, particular dog in the fight other than just to observe certain things about these watches. I know that technically a ceramic watch is scratch resistant and they'd upgraded certain things about it. But for me, a lot of these watches lost a lot of their charm. There's a fellow Irishman there rocking the same watch in No Time to Die. Of course, that's Pierce Brosnan. There were these ones as well. This one was a transitional model here. But for me, in the end, the conclusion I come to really is that the newer watch is technically more advanced. Look at that movement and so on. What I've got in mind is a modified ETA 2824, I believe. However, the older one just had a tad more charm to it. What are your feelings on these kind of differences? We'll get onto Rolex in a minute.
Okay, shall I go ahead or?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
You ready? Okay, so the pre-ceramic Omega Seamaster, the one that you're wearing, is automatic, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I was an owner of that watch, and it was the watch that I fell in love with. The bracelet on those watches were very, very well made, extremely well made. If you remember.
Oh my God, man! It is the most comfortable bracelet that I own. You're right on the money with that.
The bracelet really well made. The only problem with the bracelet was that the pins and stuff you would always wear. It would always start. Also, where your clasp shut, there was all tendency of the actual clasp link, because the piece that goes in the center clasp when you open.
Hang on there a second. We've got a problem with your audio. You're locking up there. You're back. Okay, you're back with us. Go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, I think your internet just had a little bit of a freak.
So the clasp, when you open it, you'll find that sometimes the springiness of the actual two buttons would snap. There's a spring inside that would snap, and also the clasp itself would bend. The inner clasp would bend. The pins would get worn, as I mentioned before. Pins and shoes would get worn. The bezel would start to age because of the sunlight. It would start to fade. Also, the dial and hands would fade. It's very, very common to see on the first generation of these watches. Why was it 2892?
Like if you look at mine, right? Can you hear me, man? I think you're having you might have to reset your internet or something. If you look at mine there, on the seconds hand, it's still quite red on that little sweeping seconds hand, where I've seen a lot of models from the same year. This is 1993, this watch, by the way. That red has actually faded. I think mine, whoever owned it before me, didn't really bring it out in the sunlight too much.
Yeah, the tip of the second hand would fade.
Yeah,
would actually start to fade. And also the dial and hands would fade. So you would put a new set of hands on, but the dial would still be faded. But then not what you'd expect, but this is very common on the older Seamasters. I always noticed that. So whenever one used to come in, Oshin, I'd always check the pins and tubes. Yeah, I'd always check the spring for the clasp. And then I'd obviously strip down the movement, which is a 2892, where parts are still accessible. Parts are still accessible, freely accessible.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, just for me, overall, what do you think about the newer ones? Have you been working with those at all?
I've not worked on the movement, Oshin, but I've sold a few of those myself and have had them in for polishing. And they updated, well, basically they use screws now for the pins and tubes, which is fantastic.
Which is nice.
For me, For me, the steel isn't fantastic. I don't know. I just feel the steel is different. I think I don't know. The feel of the steel isn't as good as the older version.
I would agree.
The clasp fits much better. It actually looks better. Obviously, the movement is the in-house movement, which is an excellent movement. The fact that the bezel is ceramic goes in your favor because it doesn't fade. However, if it cracks, it's probably quite costly.
Yes.
So you've got the fact that it won't fade and it doesn't scratch, but it does scratch. It can scratch and it can chip.
Okay.
So they're so different in so many ways, but they're just great watches. I mean, once again, we're going pre-ceramics and more ceramic. It's more or less the same. It's similar. If you think about it, it's very similar to the Submariner, if you don't mind me saying.
It is, they were in parallel for quite some time, and that's the reason I'm starting with these. A much slimmer watch, the one on the left, I have to say, much more elegant on the wrist. The one on the right has that bulkiness, lost a bit of its elegance and class, and traded it for that kind of robustness and kind of popping out at you kind of look. There you go. There's the widths. If you see, one is 13.5, the other is 12.6, and it's the world of difference. If you look how they curve, the curves go in. Everything, the contours are so much nicer than the one on the left. The one on the right has that bulkiness. It traded some of the elegance, I think, for other things. But the general point here is like, are we getting better? I know we are from a technical standpoint. This one on the right is capable of more. It has, more power reserve. It's in-house, yada, yada, yada. And of course, it's got the Parachrome hairspring, so it's going to be, or silicon, so it's going to be pretty much amagnetic or have an incredible resistance to magnetism, whereas this old one here on the screen, I got to keep it away from any loudspeakers or anything like that. I wonder, are we trading certain things over too much? If we think about Rolex, I've got right here, pretty much the first of the ceramic Rolex right here, the 116710 LN, and it is it's the GMT in all black. I think they started this one in 2007, although this is a 2008 model. And this was the beginning of ceramic. This is when they started moving over from aluminum bezels to ceramic bezels. And the rest is history. Of course, pretty much all the other watches followed suit. When you're working on these different models, I think I have a video I can pull up as well on this. When you're working on these, do you find ever, like for example, when I unscrew the crown on my pre-ceramic Rolexes and I wind and manipulate the crown, I find it to be a much more luxurious, beautiful experience. Things seem to be kind of seamed together more perfectly, whereas the newer ones, look, they're still great. I don't want to pick too hard on them, but they don't ever feel quite as amazing as the older ones. And I wondered, did they just have a higher standard, a higher quality of manufacturing back in the good old days, so to speak?
Well, I think the original Omega movements of the 70s are beautiful, and they wind really nicely if they're done correctly. But I mean, even the Submariner I'm wearing now, when I go to wind it, it doesn't feel no way as smooth as a 3-1 caliber. So that's, I've always found that quite interesting.
Right, but, of course, because yours has the newer one, the 32, yeah.
But if you don't mind me going, if I can go back to the Omega Seamasters, if we can go back, could we talk about
the
that?
video? Sure. Sorry, maybe moving on too fast. Go ahead.
If you're buying the pre-ceramic Omega Seamaster, it's very, very important that you buy and you're willing to pay that extra. And there's reasons why, if I can go through this, is because you're most probably going to buy one where the bracelet is showing signs of wear. All pins and tubes need to be replaced. Also, you're most probably going to end up finding one where the bezel is fading. That's if you want that. Also find where the dial and hand are faded. That's if you want that. What I mean is that people like the patina, the age, but if you're looking to rules deep, so to speak, and one you pay.
Can I just stop you there, Alex?
A lot
Can I just
extra.
stop
The
you?
reason I wouldn't suggest you buy.
Hey, Alex, can you hear me right now? Alex, hello, hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear
you. Can. Yeah, it's just that your internet is coming in and out. I think if your phone is connected to your local Wi-Fi, maybe disconnected from that or whatever, something seems to be activating in your, or maybe your signal where you are is a little weak, but you keep coming in and out, and we can't quite catch everything you're saying. You've got intermittent, you've got some certain breaks in your internet, and I'd like to nip it in the bud now before we head into the rest of the hour without fixing the problem. Yeah, I mean, look, the details on this thing are gorgeous as well, and there's so many things under the hood, I'm sure, that makes such a difference. Again, a different kind of beast completely, even though they're based on the same thing. Would you
hear me okay now?
I can right now. Yeah, I'll only really know when you start speaking again. You know.
We'll hear what I was just referring to before was the fact that I would highly suggest that you pay just that extra for one that is in good condition, because if you try and buy one from an auction that's in bad condition, you're going to be paying a lot of money to have a new bezel, new dial, new hands, most probably a bracelet or pins and tubes, depending if Omega are wanting to work on the bracelet. You know, so don't go for the cheap, because by the time you pay all that money, you could have bought the ceramic version one, or paid almost the price for a ceramic version one. I mean, you can still able to get the ceramic on a discount. I've sold quite a few on good discounts, but if it was me to buy one of the two, I would probably, because I've owned the previous, but I'll go for the ceramic. I would go for the ceramic.
Right.
It depends what you want. If you want to wear the exact watch that James Bond wore, Pierce Brosnan, then you go for that one. But if you want a watch where you're still going to have it under warranty, the accuracy would be, yes, it would be better. And the bracelet is thicker, and there's no chance any pins are going to start protruding out because they start to peek out. Then you go for the ceramic one. I mean, it's really depends what you want. You know, it's back again. It's the same as the Submariner ceramic or pre-ceramic. You know.
Well, speaking of that, let me bring that over. I did a video on it too, with them side by side, and yeah, I mean, this is obviously very famous watch. Both of them very, very famous watches. Here's your pre-ceramic. That is a 2007 16610 LN Lunetois with the Rolex Repeat Rehaut no holes case, next to a 16610 LN. So that's the ceramic one on the right. For newcomers to this kind of thing, one of the first things you'll see is things like the pip protrudes over the triangle there at 12 on the older ones, whereas on this it remains within the triangle, and it sticks out a lot more, like a little pimple or something like that. You will see shininess off of the newer one that's a little bit, has a different luster to the older one. And of course the newer one has these thicker shoulders, more muscular looking watch than the older one. And again, it's almost the same as the Seamasters. The one on the left has a certain class and elegance and some je ne sais quoi of some sort. It's hard to put your finger on it, that the new one doesn't have. The new one is brighter. It's like it's on steroids or something like that, and it's chunkier and brighter and louder in ways. They both have the same movement, though, right?
Yes, I mean, sorry, the one on the ceramic one you're showing. What year is it?
On the right, I believe it's 2017, 2018.
Yes, yeah. So it'll be the same movement. Yeah, it'll be a 3-1 caliber. Well, maybe
Yeah.
the hairspring slightly up. It's been upgraded, but
Yeah.
look, there's pros and cons to each watch. The same as the CMAS. You know, the ceramic, if it chips, only Rolex will fit a bezel insert. You can't take it to anybody else. I can't do it. They won't supply me a bezel insert for the ceramic one.
Sure.
You have to take that to Rolex, and they may push you to service the complete watch. But on the aluminium bezel insert, it can obviously scratch and take knocks, but it won't chip and it won't crack. Do you know what I mean? It won't.
Yeah, it's not uncommon to be shopping for an older one, a pre-ceramic, and have to kind of put up with the fact that there are some scratches across that bezel. It's just part of its life. It doesn't really make any other difference other than maybe it might annoy you if there are scratches.
Yeah, and also on the pre-ceramic bracelet, the end links that fit onto the case. The link before it creates a lot of wear. It creates a lot of wear. So what Rolex will do is they will say you'd have to change the complete bracelet if they won't repair the bracelet. But what I do is that we drill through that link. We put a very large bar that goes through it, and then we laser fill it in so you can't even see. You might see a very small faint circle.
Yeah,
and then we give a 5-year warranty. On that as well, but Rolex will just want to change the complete bracelet if there's issues with the bracelet itself.
Let me just look at some super chats real quick. Edmund B, $2. Thank you so much. Do you have a question? You do. Let's come to that question. Can you shoot us that question later, Edmund, in the quick fire stuff, so we can stay focused on the topic at hand? Tim Wright, $4.99. Support the Serious Watch Talk by upvoting, super chatting with your watch questions. Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much, Tim.
Sorry, go on.
Go ahead. I just want to grab these before they begin to disappear. We can rewind in the video if you're asking. Amazing watch chat. I'm a little tipsy. Okay, good for you, Mental Jock. AD, thanks for the $75, man.
Okay.
Chris Clark, 10 Canadian dollars. Thanks. Greetings, gents. Submariner, No Date, Sea Dweller, or GMT. Let's talk about that later. I will remember, or if you want to hit us with it again, you don't have to super chat again, of course. We just want to stay on topic for a moment, and then we're going to do quick fire questions. But I will come back to that, man. Sorry, there's another one. The Embezzlement King, $2, sub date or no date. We'll come to that again. Yes.
Sorry, Doshin. Do you mind if can you pause the video?
I can. Do you want me to rewind a little?
No, it's okay. You see where your finger is on the flip lock?
The left finger or the right finger?
The left finger where it's the flip lock that you're pushing back, aren't you?
Yes.
Can you see there's a very small rivet on the flip lock?
Right there, yes.
Yeah. No. Further down. Slowly go down. Move the arrow down.
This one?
No. Then further down. No.
Here.
That's it. You see that? Biggest problem on these clasps is that rivet starts to wear. So what Rolex will do is they'll say you'll need a new clasp. I re-rivet that clasp and give an extended warranty. But the problem is that rivet wears a lot. And also, if you take it to somebody that doesn't know much about polishing, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this is true. They don't mask off that rivet. They polish over the rivet. And as you can see, it's already quite thin. It's quite thin. It's very close to it's quite flush. If you look very carefully, it doesn't extend out that much. So what happens is over time, the wear starts to happen. And if you polish over it, that actual rivet gets so small that flip lock will just come off on one side or completely come off.
It'll just loosen.
Oh yeah, it'll just come off. It actually even come off as one piece because it's barred all the way through.
Oh, I see.
Wow. Also, when you open the clasp, can you show the video of when you open the clasp?
Let me go back. right
Okay,
here.
right. In the
Okay, here I am opening it.
Yeah. So when you open it, I'll show you. And
Yeah.
then you flip over. Yeah. Now, so just pause it.
Uh-huh.
Now, can you see the rivets in the two clasps? Can you see what's holding them in the center? If you just, I know it's difficult for me to.
Right there in the
Right.
center there.
Yes. Now
Yes.
you always have to check that because that starts to wear. And also, if you polish the case and bracelet, you always need to push on both sides because if it starts to protrude slightly out, you need to rebar it. Because what also happens is, if you ultrasonic the bracelet, it adds, the waves start to obviously hit the metal, not damage the metal, but that rivet can start to protrude out. And if you don't check it before and after the ultrasonic, it can actually come out or it can start to creep out. So you need to rebar that. And when you rebar it actually feels good because then it actually tensions the clasp. So not only do you get your clasp back fully polished, but when you go to close it, it just feels nice.
Dude, do you remember we had that discussion about the new old stock one? I was comparing metals, and the chap had sent me a new old stock one. He wanted to pick it up when he came. When I opened that new old stock one, man, there was tension. Like it went like this. I was like, oh no, I feel even guilty even opening it because you can tell it's pretty much never been moved. You know, it was beautiful. Really, it was like going back in time. That's what it felt like. I was going back 15 years or whatever the date of the watch was. It was quite amazing. Very rare to feel, of course, now because they've been open and closed and open and closed so many times. The whole thing gets so much looser. I wonder, do I get? It's been so long since I looked at this video. It's one of my first ever videos. I assume I get to here's their big boy now. This is the glide lock clasp. Totally different thing. A milled piece, correct?
Yeah.
So it's milled from one piece of steel, correct? Is that what that means?
I don't know. You probably know more than me about that, but I can tell you that the flip lock on the new one, I believe, is a spring. Yeah, it's a spring bar system. It's a spring bar that holds the flip lock in place. Yeah, because they actually can come off. Now these you can still tighten the clasp on these, but you've got to be extra delicate on the tightening of the clasp. It's a different way of working than on the pre-ceramic. I've never had an issue with the glide lock. The bracelet on these is much better. Let's be honest. It's solid steel. It's not hollow. So
the other one was solid. Now you have solid end links and so on. The later ones from the noughties, like 2007, 8, 10, etc., they're solid, correct? It's just not as great a clasp, I believe. Am I wrong?
I know.
I know the old ones, the ones from the 80s and 90s, are all hollow and janky.
Yeah, they're hollow. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they did that. I suppose you could say they slowly upgraded because they went to solid end links and But you see, Oshin, I'm coming from somebody in terms of a watchmaker that sees what to expect. So I'm now sharing with your viewers of what to expect when you buy pre-ceramic. You're going to expect and I know the middle case is going to be slightly worn. The shoulders are going to show signs of wear.
Yes.
Case back is usually scratched anyway, but you don't really see any problems with the case back unless someone's heavily engraved it and they haven't laser filled in correctly when they try to cover the engraving. Glass is usually, glass can be replaced easily because they do chip. Yeah. But it's more for me. It's more the dial and hands. You want to really check.
Yeah,
really check the dial and hands. But the middle case does take a battering from the pre-ceramics.
This one on the left is a tad polished. I notice now. Like back then, I wouldn't have spotted that, but now I guess my eye has been sharpened over the years. Whereas you can see the one on the right. Look at me. O'Malley gets a stickered watch and he won't even take the stickers off. Like, fucking terrible.
What is it? Was it with men and stickers? We love things.
It's so beautiful. I don't want to even use it. It's like that. But of course, this was probably my first ever ceramic Rolex as well. So I was probably like caressing it and doting over it like an idiot. clearly both sapphire crystal on both watches. You'd have to go way, way back to have anything but that with the pre-ceramic. Now, again, there was a spot back here in the video, and I'm not talking about technical stuff right now. I'm talking about the way the thing wears on the wrist is almost identical to the issue with, or at least the differences between the Seamasters 300Ms. This is the pre-ceramic sitting on my wrist there. I think I'm in Valpolicella. I'm looking down at Amarone grapes right there, the vines. And see the way it kind of rolls in, the contours roll into one another in a very smooth way. You could run your hand the palm of your hand from the right over to the left here and almost feel nothing under your hand. Whereas with the ceramic, I think I go straight to a shot of the ceramic, much more bulky, kind of interrupting those curves and curls of the contours, and wearing very, very different. Of course, slab side. Look how different that wears. I think I've put on a bit of weight since then as well, because I don't think a sub sits that much large on my wrist.
Which one do you think wears better for you? And I'll give you my opinion.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a funny thing, because with the large wrists I have, of course, the ceramic wears a little better. However, there's something elegant and timeless about the previous one. And that's where I find a conflict personally. And it's just like the Seamasters, same issue, same exact issue. What about you?
Well, because I've, obviously I'm wearing this one. It's a difficult one. I still love the pre-ceramic. There's just something very nice, very warm about it. I suppose it's a bit like, it might sound a bit crazy for me to say, but it's like the old Porsches compared to the new Porsche.
Right, exactly.
The new Porsches are very kind of like clinical. It drives for you. The old Porsches, a bit like a TVR cigar, like the TVR, where one of them even had a warning, be careful how you drive this car, because it has no airbags, it has no ABS. Basically, it's just a steering wheel in the chassis. And it's nearly all the Sagaris TVRs, I think they're all been crashed, where people have just killed themselves in them or just written them off. But I think it's very similar to the pre-ceramic and the ceramic Rolex. It's all about preference. But the one thing people shouldn't do is...
there's the Lumen, by the way, guys. That's Super Luminova on the left. That's the old one. And that's Chromolite on the right. It has a blue hue to it. Sorry, go on, guys.
One thing that people shouldn't do is buy a pre-ceramic because they can't afford the ceramic and then compare it to the ceramic.
Right.
Or try and say, the bracelet's shown shown slight wear, I've got to get it restored, because then you start throwing money and you are never going to be happy with it, because you're comparing it to the ceramic. You've got to try both on before you pull the trigger and take action. You must try one or the other on. Don't just go for one. Try the other one on, because you may decide to go for the pre-ceramic over the ceramic. It's all about preference. That's what makes us all different. It's all about preference.
Excellent point, man. Let's move on to topic now and talk about water resistance. Now, when I first started getting into watches, I saw 100 meters water resistance, 200 meters, 300 meters. And I read a book called Shadow Divers many years ago. It was all about diving. I don't dive. I don't know much about it, but I learned a lot, reading that book about the whole thing. And I thought to myself, hold on a minute. 100 meters is like 300 feet. That's very, very deep. Like, most divers don't even go down 300 feet. They go down 150 feet if they're even, pretty professional about it. And half of us who are just doing a little bit of whatever scuba on a holiday are probably only going down about 30 feet. What's the need for all of this uber deep stuff? Then I started to learn, as the years went by, that really, and you can confirm whether this is true or not, that really it's a strange, reminds me of root mean squared when it comes to amplifiers. you might see that a valve amplifier is 10 watts, but you know it's 10 watts root mean squared, which means it's going to be at the volume of 100 watts if you turn it up to 10. And it's kind of the opposite of that, or at least this is what I've been picking up, is that if it says 100 meters, you're not really supposed to go down 100 meters. You can go down about maybe 20 or 30. That you've got to divide it kind of by 3. If it says 30 meters, do not go in the water with it. Just do not. You know, if it says 10 meters, don't even get caught in the rain with it, right? Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right, Oisin. Look, the 30 meter a watch that's shown as 30 meters really isn't a watch to wear for showering or bathing.
Right.
So a lot of dress watches, you know, I mean,
The Speedy, right? The old Speedies were 30 meters. I would never go near water with a Speedy on my wrist. You know?
yeah, this is a big problem, because there's a lot of people. There's an influx of people that have issues with their watches, Oisin, during the holidays, because what they do is they will unscrew the crown to set the time while they're on the plane. They're probably pissed, or you know, they can't wait to get off the plane and go into the swimming pool, and they leave the crown open accidentally, and water lets in. But regarding water resistancy, so rule of thought, any watch that's 30 meters really isn't that water resistant. 50 meters is really 30 meters, in my opinion.
Okay. Never getting to it, man. We really are. This is what I've been thinking the whole time.
So 100 meters. Now, I will say this, that on my right here, I've got air testers that act as water. So the way it works, Oisin, is that when you before I open up a watch, let's say a Rolex or any watch that's 100 meters or even 50 meters or even 30 meters, I'll stick in the air tester. Yes. So the way it works is that the air will act as water. And what it'll do is, it's a chamber where you put the watch in a chamber, and there's a sensor on the glass. Yeah. So it fills up with air. It fills a chamber up with air, and then the air acts as water, and it tries to get into the watch. So so let's say if it did get into the watch, the glass, because it's on a very, very fine sensor, the glass will lift up because the air's got inside. So it will fail it. It will fail it. If it pushes the glass down, it will show as minus. We're looking for the minus, right? So we're looking for the minus. Now, if it does fail it, we then take the movement out, and we'll stick it in a goldfish bowl, which I've got 2 official Rolex machines, and we'll see where the bubbles are coming from.
I see.
Now, usually on let's say a gents Rolex Datejust 16233, 16234, you'll find that the tube is needs replacing, or is loose and needs to be Loctited in, or it'll be the glass seal or back seal. So, look, if you have a water resistancy watch of 100 meters plus, it's always best, Oisin, to get it checked every 6 to 12 months, in my opinion. Every 3 months is too often, but every 6 to 12 months, it's important that you get it checked. Don't just rely on its water resistancy, because those seals will start to corrode, especially if you're going in and out of saunas or high temperature to low temperature. You're naturally going to you're going to increase the age of the seals.
Right.
So you've got to understand is that watches need maintenance, and maintenance also includes the seals: back seal, glass seal, tube seal, etc., etc. So you just basically get your watches checked before you start diving.
So is it safe to say that there's a classic Submariner, right? 300, what is it? 300 meters, 1100 feet. Is that what it is? Let me check. It escapes me. Yeah, 1,000 feet, which is 300 meters. Is it safe to say that you can't go down 1,000 feet? This is, what this really means is about 200 feet or 300 feet in realistic terms.
No, you can. You can go to the fee that it's saying, but apparently, and I'm going back to my WASTEP time, so I'm only going back to what I was told. We're talking years ago. So I was told, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone wants to comment, because I don't know everything. I can only teach you I've been taught and what I've learned myself is that if the case is at 100 meters, it has to be static. It literally cannot move. Apparently, the actual has to, because then problems can occur.
So in other words, in the ideal, perfect, undisturbed environment, it can go down 1,000 feet. Any variations in that, and now you're risking.
Apparently, I'm just saying apparently because I don't know for 100%. But this was a debate I had over 20 years ago regarding what is true water resistancy. What does it really mean?
This is what I'm trying to figure out.
But Rolex, look, if a Rolex is 100 meters, it can reach to 100 meters with no issues. Reach to 100 meters with no issues. Yeah, I 100% believe that. Actually,
I mean, this thing is supposed to go down 11,000 meters, 36,000 feet. I mean, I know this thing is ridiculous and all, but like, I mean, really, I don't know.
I believe it. I strongly believe it that it can reach that depth at static. You know, if it goes past any, then you know, then there'll be problems. There'll be issues with the watch.
Well, we'll never know, will we? Because we're not bringing it down there. I suppose what we need to know is our GMT Master 2 that's got 100 meters water resistance good enough to dive with? Because 100 meters is a damn sight farther down than most divers ever go in their lives. Take a bloody week of decompression to come back up from those kind of depths. I'm exaggerating, but you know, the whole thing it's pretty crazy. I just want to know, like, you know, I mean, the way I look at it is my Speedy, when I'm washing the dishes or anything like that, is coming straight off the wrist.
Yeah, but what's your Speedy? Which year, sorry? Which
the
year?
Old one, 1988.
Look, as far as I know, well, I'll give you what I do, Oisin. So basically, if a watch comes in, let's say Rolex, Oyster Quartz, or Submarine, I'm going to just be talking about Rolex now because I'm just giving you. So, from 20 years above, as far as I know, Rolex in-house service center do not warranty chronometer rating. Even though the watch can do chronometer rating, they will not warranty chronometer rating. They will not warranty water sealing as well, even though the watch passes. So on my invoice, I go quite deep in my invoices. I will say watches pass from 30 meters because I start from 30, 50, 100 meters, 90 seconds on 100 meters, and then I do a vacuum test at 90 seconds. If the watch passes, it has passed, even though it's passed because it's a watch over 20 years. I will not warranty for water sealing, even though it's passed. And I know, as far as I know, Rolex do the same. So if it's good enough for Rolex, it's good enough for me.
I see. I mean, yeah, it's always been a thing that's confused me because I often get messages from people going, "Are you kidding me? 30 meters? That's 90 feet. What the hell? That's really deep. Like, you can totally go swimming with your old Speedy." Like, I'm like, no, not so much. I think the 30 meters is really 10 feet. Really,
it's nothing. 30 meters is nothing. It's been used. It's been marketed in such a poor way. 30 meters.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 500 in the room. Great to see you all here. Everybody upvote if they can, if they're sitting in front of a computer, if they have any way of doing that. It really helps us out. We are going to get to the rapid fire questions part of the evening. So if you have questions to hit Alex with, I mean, you can ask me, but guys, good luck. I mean, I have a certain amount of knowledge, but it's not like this dude here. So you want to hit him with some questions, but again, rapid. Keep them small, simple, direct, and Alex is going to hit you with the answers in the same way. So we're getting to that, and prep your questions. Start hitting the chat with them now. I'll go straight to the embezzlement king because he was asking sub date or no date. I'll go no date.
No date.
Okay. Next up, there was another one here. Carlos Ramirez, loving the chat. S&P 300 because of your video. I bought myself the 2008 model. Still have the original wave dial, aluminum bezel. Yeah, that original wave dial is great. It's made with a rose mill, very difficult to make. The new one has a laser etched, doesn't have as much soul. Upgraded to the coaxial movement. Yes, there was an intermediate one with a coaxial, and you can tell because it has an applied Omega logo rather than the painted Omega logo. So that one wasn't a question, but let's I don't want to ignore the super chats. Okay, DK Martinez, $25. Hello from the Bay Area, one of my favorite places in the world, the Bay Area. On my way to JLC Duo Face soon. Saw Blancpain Bathyscaphe ceramic when looking at the JLC a year ago. Still lusting 12 months later. Thoughts on Blancpain, reliability of the 1315, etc. JLC, any issues? There's a few questions in there, but just let's get to one of them. What are your thoughts on the 1315 Blancpain?
I'm not that experienced on it, but this is another watch that you need to send to Blancpain if you need to get it serviced. It's very, very important that watch goes to Blancpain, doesn't go to a third party, because parts are restricted. And if I dare say, not many people are probably experienced on that movement. But I don't really know much. But when I hear the word Blancpain, send back to the manufacturer for servicing. Trust me.
I mean, that was the original dive watch, right? The 50 fathoms, right? Beautiful. You should know a lot of. Yeah. Okay, here's a good one. I often wonder this. Can I put my Submariner in an ultrasonic washer? So I read that you're supposed to stop the movement, or at least wait till the watch stops. Don't unscrew it. Wait till the watch stops, because the vibration, the hertz that the watch is, ticking away at, maybe at a different frequency than the ultrasonic waves going through the water, and that could be a problem.
That's an interesting one. I've never heard that before, but you can put your case head with the movement in, making sure that the watch is sealed prior to you put it in. But I prefer if you take the movement out if you're cleaning the case and bracelet. But if you
just take the movement out, Sad Snake, take it out.
Look, if you put it in for a couple of minutes, you're not going to do any harm. But then you don't want to burn the steel, because if you don't have plastic on your ultrasonic tank when it's down, it should be hanging. You can burn the steel, because steel to steel in an ultrasonic tank will burn. It will leave like marks. But do you want to put a movement into a watch while its ultrasonic is on? Some watchmakers say yes, some watchmakers will say no. But why have you got an ultrasonic tank in the first place? Can I ask why?
Just use a soft toothbrush, right? Murata K, Panerai, yes or no? I would say yes. I still love them. Even the Luminor Due, which I know has kind of killed the spirit of Panerai.
Well, there's two things certain in life. You're going to die, and Panerai are going to make an edition of it. They have a habit of making limited editions of everything. But I will say, if you buy a Panerai, try and buy it, either buy brand new or buy from somebody that's willing to give their money back if there's any part that the watch may be fake, because I'm not being disrespectful. There's so many fake Panerais out there, even in auctions, that people don't even know about.
Very, very excellent point. Truck, €5. Gold Zenith Chrono El Primero, over polished one lug. Okay. Can it be returned to its satin finish? So it's been over polished, I see.
Yes, it can be, depending on how bad it is, but from experience, it can be. And Zenith El Primero Chronomaster, can I just say, is a much more superior watch than the Daytona.
The Chronomaster Sport.
Yeah, it's much more superior.
The one with the really fast chrono hand that goes like 10 seconds or no, it's a second sweep, right?
Yeah, the one that looks like a Daytona, but is better watch than a Daytona.
It has overlapping subdials. Yes, very famous watch.
It's a better watch than a Daytona. Yeah.
Okay, well, you heard it here, guys. Yeah. So it can be brought back to a satin finish. Yes. Yeah. There's Leon. Rapid fire question: GMT Pepsi, Oyster or Jubilee? I'll go Jubilee, because as long as I've known the new I assume you mean the new one. the ceramic one. As long as I've seen it, I've always seen it on the Jubilee, and it was part of its character. It's also a pilot's watch, so robustness isn't necessarily at the top of the priority list. Alex,
Jubilee. Oh yeah.
Okay. And Anders, Speedmaster Racing, yes or no? I would say yes, because that's what a Speedy was originally for. It's for timing races and so on. I also prefer that most of the racings, I believe them all, are 44 mil instead of 42. And with my meat hooks, that's going to work. What about yourself?
No, yeah. Speedmaster Racing, yeah.
Nice, yeah. Boston Collector is saying he's thrown in his 2 cents here as an amateur professional. Never put the head in an ultrasonic.
It's everyone's listen. It's just no. I appreciate and respect that if that's what he says. Yeah, that's his opinion.
Jeff Craig, $10, 2000 1663 16613 Bluesy bezel insert replaced by Rolex during service. They put in a new insert.
Yes, they put in a new. You can have a new bezel insert put in if you want, but some people prefer the old bezel inserts, especially if they got that purpley look.
Right.
As well, some people see that as more collectible. There's even people that put bezel inserts in the oven, the black ceramic bezel inserts in the oven to age them. We're going down a rabbit hole, but yeah, I've seen that. I've heard about that before. But look,
even if your one isn't going, if your particular model isn't going purple yet, when you get it back, like the blueness of the dial might not match the blueness of the bezel so much. If the bezel's brand new, it'll have all that deep, lush, dark luster. Things with time, they brighten, correct? It's like anything drying up always goes to a brighter color, never goes darker. So the blue becomes a kind of a purple. If you give it a long enough, it'll eventually become a white, ghosty purple. That seems to be the tendency. So if they give you a brand new bezel, Jeff, it's going to have that deep blue luster, lush, expensive looking blue that they used to have. And your dial might be like a brighter color. That's the only thing that you'll get a mismatch there.
And I'll just say, just slightly off the topic, the ceramic 2010 steel and gold had that blue, that nice gloss blue. That's one of my favorites. I'm sure it's a 2010 where it had that gloss blue and they fade it out to sunburst. That one you should buy.
Here's an interesting one here. Steve W. If I send my Daytona APH dial to Rolex for service, lucky bastard, you got one of those. Is there a risk they would change the dial?
I don't believe they would change the dial.
Can't you tell them?
You can tell them not to change it. I mean, what reason would there be for them to change the dial anyway? I don't believe they'll change it because it's an APH. Just from experience, I don't believe that. You'll be safe. You'll be safe, but it's best if it does go to Rolex, because if it's got a Rolex service history, people prefer that because now it's a collector's piece. I did actually mention that to one of my customers, and he took it as an offense because he thought I didn't want to work on his watch. I was just trying to help him. I was trying to explain to him it's much better. It's in your interest to send it to Rolex.
Here's an interesting comment, more than a question. James Burns, my Seiko Turtle took water last week at 5 meters while I was retrieving my anchor, as you do.
Oh, wow.
That's not good.
No. When was the last time you had it checked for sealing?
Yeah, that must be the problem, right? The sealings mustn't be, the seals rather, mustn't be tight enough. Was it a king turtle, James, or just the regular turtle? I'm curious because I have a couple of king turtles now. I'm getting a little about that. Next question. Here we are. Silvano Vivanco. Reverso automatic or manual wind in the JLC Reverso?
Manual for me.
Manual.
Yeah.
The original OC, thank you so much, man. Best new watch show on YouTube.
Thank you, OC.
Keep it up. Thank you so much, OC. Next question here. Turnclide writes, how is the Cyclops made on a Rolex?
It's glued
it is applied, right? It's glued on.
Yeah. Right. Sometimes they come off. They actually just ping off. But because usually if it's at high heat or if it's stuck in an ultrasonic tank at high heat, they can come off. They actually can come off.
550 in the room. Great to have everyone with us on a Saturday night. Sorry, you've nothing better to do on your Saturday night than to hang out with us and talk about watches, but we're all in it together, fellas. Carlos Ramirez, $4.99 for Alex, of course. Why don't you own a Seiko? Plus, put the money towards a Seiko fund for Alex. You're not into Seikos?
That name rings a bell, Carlos Ramirez. No, I don't. I'm a bit ignorant with Seiko. I would be perfectly honest with you. I'm not that familiar unless it's higher.
Yeah, unless it's Grand Seiko. Is it because, in a Seiko NH35 or a 4R35 or whatever begins to crap out, they just replace the whole movement. You just send it to them, and there's no point in sending it to a guy like you who's going to get in and do extensive work.
They do. It's not just that, Ocean. It's the fact that it's like Kia. If Kia made the most expensive sports car, I could never take it seriously because it's a Kia. It's that name Seiko. And no one gets excited, and I don't mean to be that disrespectful, but no one gets excited. It's like when
I do. I know,
and that's just my opinion. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's like when people say I've got Richard Mille. No one cares which one it is. They think the guy's loaded. So
I know,
you know what I mean?
But Seiko is one of those great brands that make stuff that it should be so much more expensive than it is. For $500, you can get a wonderful, wonderful watch from Seiko that should honestly be, $1,500. They're making amazing stuff that's way underpriced, in my opinion. I'm trying to do damage control here, man, because my crowd really loves Seiko. Okay, but I do appreciate your honesty, man. That's what you're here for. Anthony Comunale, Explorer 2 Black Dial or Yachtmaster 40 Blue Dial. I would do Yachtmaster because I adore that watch.
Yeah.
It's a big head turner as well.
There's pluses and cons on both. I don't want to go into it too much because of the questions, but there's plus and minuses on both.
Right. Here's a super chat. Thoughts on wearing your watch while playing sports like tennis or cricket? So things with definite impact moments, right? Where there is quite a lot of vibrations through the wrist. Thank you, Edmund B, for that question.
Yes, no, never wear your watch in tennis because you wear out the rotor, or cricket, any large impact sports, tennis, cricket, or no, do not do it. Plus, it can also cause issues with the movement because when you hit, you're then creating problems with the balance because then the balance has to then re-regulate. So rapid, like a heartbeat, and then it has to regulate down. It's unnecessary. Also can put wear on the pivots. Okay, they're under shock settings, but that's irrelevant because it's still unnecessary. So please take your watch off when you're playing tennis and cricket, but you can shoot guns when you're playing with watches, so don't worry about that.
Really? Even though there's a kickback?
No, it's not.
No. Well, so when you're playing tennis, just wear a G-Shock, right?
Yeah.
If you must. Philip P, $5. You had mentioned before not to use Cape Cod cloth on polished areas of watches. Can you elaborate as to why? Are products like semi-chrome okay?
No, you don't want any cloth that's impregnated with any sort of kind of, like the solution that they use. Also, when you start rubbing, if you're not taping it off, you're going to start rubbing on the satinization, which will then start to polish up. Plus, you're rubbing and you're not polishing as you would polish the bracelet on a mop. So then it's not even. So it has a very smeared look. Just do not do it. Just leave your watch alone. Use a toothbrush, enjoy it, and get it done properly by somebody such as myself or alternative.
Love it. James Hess, $5.99. Winder boxes, watch winders, he means. Recommendable for everyday use, or just wind by hand and start them after storage. Sub, ceramic, LN, LV, bezel exchange, regularly dangerous. Well, we're just going to answer the first one. The short answer I'm going to tell you is no, and you can go back to our previous episode. Was it last week or the week before, Alex? It was the week before. I think it was the week before. We talked about watch winders at length. I hate to divert you, man, but go back and we talk about it for a good 20, 25 minutes. So go back a couple of episodes. You'll find out everything you need there. Jared, $4.99, wanting to add a GMT to the collection besides Rolex. Your thoughts? Appreciate all you do, Oisin. Thanks for the information. Alex. That's a good GMT. I mean, I like that Aquaterra GMT that came out a while back. I'm gonna say it. The Seiko GMTs are very interesting if you're on a low budget.
Yeah, I would go with Omega Oshin, because any other GMT, I don't know, it's not say a fake GMT, but you're probably going to be paying over the odds. But then if you go down like Ulysses Nardan or any of those, then you're restricted to who can service it. So I would definitely go down the Omega route. Yeah, I think that's a Tudor GMT, as Truck says. Yeah, or you can Christopher Ward GMT.
Hey, you know what? Thank you for reminding me, because I have one right here. I was going to include it in the pre-ceramic conversation, even though it's not from that older generation. It's just kind of emulating the older generation, and it is to be compared with the new Pepsis. This is what they call, this affectionate term, saying the Diet Pepsi, because of course it's Tudor instead of Rolex. And this is one of my favorite watches. It's absolute beaut. It's got those vintage Pepsi looks and a very robust, strong, gorgeous watch. And of course, as you can see, there's a big red GMT hand there. Consider this one, man. And Tudor have come down on the market quite a bit. They've been affected like in the same way as Rolex has. So you'll probably get a good deal on one of those. I would recommend that. But perhaps if you're avoiding Rolex, you want to avoid Tudor also. I don't know. Maybe you have something against those companies in general.
Well, I actually liked that Tudor until there was one that came into my office to be serviced, and it was fake, and it ruined it for me, because it was so good.
Yeah.
That every time I see that watch, I always think of the fake version.
Oh, no.
It was so good.
Of course, now they have the new Tudor Black Bay Pro as well, which I forgot to mention, which is also a GMT, but I don't believe, the bezel does not turn, so it's rather like the Explorer 2. So you don't have the option of a third time zone on the fly like you do with a regular GMT. Let's move on, just get through these, because I know, Alex, you've got to head off early tonight. Jared, that was the one. Mr. Badgas, great to see you here at $10. Just bought a 2017 Christopher Ward Mark II C60 600 meters Trident Chrono. That is a beast of a watch, my friend, an absolute beast. Looks very lightly worn. Your opinion on the Valjoux 7750, the most famous movement in the world? Service interval.
Oh, look, I mean, you can get away with a 7750. You can not service it for 7-8 years, but rule is really every 3 to 4 years, 4 years to 5 years. You want to stick to 3 to 4 years. Don't forget, you've got the seals that need to be checked or changed. So don't just think of the movement. Think of everything around, such as the seals. So that's important as well. So don't forget, when you leave it late, then the seals are going to corrode as well.
AOM is asking, Tudor Pelagos FXD, when the second hand is in hack mode, I've noticed the second hand flickers when changing the time backwards. Tudor Service Center said it is not a problem. Do you agree? By the way, incidentally, just a side note, I never go back when I'm setting the time. I always go forward. Even if it's a longer distance, it's my instincts go, okay, now go all the way around and set the time, rather than go back 45 or a few hours or something.
What year is that watch that you're talking about now?
The Pelagos FXD. I'm not referring to that. I'm just saying to watches in general.
Right.
Yeah, the Pelagos FXD is a new watch. It's a new, relatively new.
Oh, release. I know. Sorry, I know what the Pelagos.
Oh, okay. I'm referring to pretty much every watch, just to be safe. I don't see what's the problem. Just keep going around. But that's
you've got OCD. That's what you're.
And a little
hammer on your head.
That's what. And a sprinkle of paranoia.
Just to
make it nice. So, what do you agree with AOM here, or do you agree with Tudor? Is what he's asking.
I agree with Tudor. That's not an issue. These are mechanical things. As long as it's not causing any problems to the movement or causing you not being able to use the watch. This is not a problem.
JMB August 12, $5. Alex, what do you think of the Breguet Type 20 Aaron Vale flyback chrono. They're very good prices on the secondary market.
They're very good prices on the secondary market for a good reason. Go and get one serviced. And sit down and go. When you send one to Breguet, go and get one serviced. See how much they charge you and how long. I think you'll be shocked.
See, Burton Dundee is getting angry. Saying, "I told you you kick the hornet's nest." Now I'm gonna have to backpedal like a politician on this one for weeks. David Bentley, I watched Last Breath last night. Netflix documentary about saturation divers. Saw an awesome Seamaster Pro with blue dial. Previous version was cool to see what the pros use. Yeah, that is interesting. Diving is such a fascinating world. Again, I'll recommend anybody who hasn't read the book Shadow Divers. It is a true story, and you will be on the edge of your seat the entire time. It's incredible story. A couple more questions, and then we will bow out. Here's Lolex, the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend. Do you see a lot of issues with the Rolex 32 movement?
Well, it's been.
You're a big fan of the 31. We know that.
Yeah, it's been. Listen, I mean, the fact that the pros of 32 is that the ball bearing system is on the rotor is much more better than the 31, but there is issues with amplitude and certain timekeeping. That there has been issues with the 32 caliber. Mine has been all right. I've not even opened up my own watch. I'm not wanting to open it up. I don't see the point, but. As for me, as owning this 32 caliber is fine, but I've heard and I've seen and from other watchmakers that there has been issues with the caliber.
Leon is asking, best dress watch. I would say the Patek Philippe Calatrava in any form. What would you say?
Octo Finissimo Bulgari, and also that Vacheron and Constantin, the one where the crown is offset and the subsidiary seconds is offset.
Oh, the one for drivers. Yeah.
Oh, wow,
that's stunner. That is called the. Remind me, guys. Names are gone right now. And last one, Notre Pris, GMT root beer, Batman or Pepsi. I would say root beer without a doubt. What would you say?
Root beer, yeah. Root beer is sexy, and that bezel is sexy.
Yeah. The American 1921, I believe that is the Vacheron you're talking about. Beautiful. Stunner.
Stunner. I know. And the Breguet Tradition as well.
So. And the Historique. The Historique is also, magnificent. Yeah, I mean, these guys are in the class of their own. Did you notice also, Leon, that we mentioned two of the Holy Trinity there? And one of the Holy Trinity we won't mention in the dress watch thing because they don't really do that kind of stuff, and that is Audemars Piguet. Okay, I think we've come to the end of it, and I've kept you 10 minutes too long, my friend. Okay. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Okay.
Thank you to anybody who super chatted. Sorry if we didn't get to your question. If we missed your question, there's one more super chat. Sorry, dropped off 300 a year ago. Rotor was really loud. How common is this? What could they be replacing? The rotor itself or the pinion? Probably, no.
What does it mean? I just dropped off my SMP 300. What does he mean by that?
He dropped it off for service, I assume.
Rotor was really loud. How common? Rotor was really loud. So was it loud before or was it loud after?
He said, but rotor was really loud, so we dropped it off for service because it was too loud. Is that common?
SMP 300, but what year is the watch? So I know what movement is in it.
Hard to know.
I need to know what movement.
Try to be specific, guys. If you're hitting us with these questions, dude, email me, man, and I'll try and get an answer for you later during next week. Sorry about that $5 that you didn't really get a straight answer there. Biggest improvement in Rolex movements Rolex could make from America 5524G. What improvements could they make?
Probably draw back that 32 caliber. Because I mean, there is issues with it. There's issues with it, especially like the Cartier's movement have been not withdrawn, but there's been a lot of issues with Cartier movements to the point where some ADs have pulled out of even selling them because there's been issues
because they're getting so many returns.
Yeah, there's been problems with their automatic movement. The one that's in the
don't tell me it's in the drive. Is it in the drive? Because
No,
that's one of my
it's
favorite
in
Cartiers.
it's,
The Ballon Blue.
No,
the,
it's the other
the,
car. My head's come off.
Santos.
Santos, yes, it's in the Santos. Yeah, the one that's the newer style Santos, where you can take the bracelet off with your. It's in that. That movement is not a good movement. I'm sorry. It's
guys,
a terrible movement.
You heard it here first, guys.
It's actually an exchange movement. They don't even service it. They just exchange it. They put another one in. It's not a great movement.
There's no point.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I think I might get in trouble for this now.
You might. You're dropping too many truth bombs on us tonight. Everybody's going to need to take a deep breath.
But the watch is nice exterior wise, but there's a lot of people.
Oh yeah, the Santos is a classic, of course. Yeah.
ADs are pulled out because of the after sales service, and the new movement has been problematic.
Excellent, man. I always learn so much. And this time next week, guys, same place, same time, same place. And of course, there is the podcast. I'll be uploading this episode later this evening after I fight off all the Seiko haters that are trying to bang down my door now. This will be the podcast. Look for Serious Watch Talk wherever you find your podcast, be it Amazon, Spotify, Apple, etc., etc. If you want to just take a listen to all this information again, and we'll leave this episode up, of course, on the channel. Alex, amazing.
Thank you for having me, Oisin. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry for keeping you a little.
Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right.
And I will see you next week, my friend. It's been amazing as always.
Take care.
Take care, man.